Hey, I'm Isaac with Hearthside Woodworks. Today, I'll be stripping down my drawers. So this chest of drawers is actually part of a three-piece bedroom set that has been in my family for somewhere around 100 years. Sometime in about mid-70s, my folks got married and they brought these pieces to their new house and they were the ones who painted them. It's time to start stripping all this down, at least on, I think I'll take this one top drawer, and start with this and kind of get an idea. So the next step for me is a heat gun. If this doesn't work as well as I want it to, then the next step would be the chemical stripping, which, I hope I don't have to do that.
I'm going to keep the middle of these panels a little bit darker so that they actually stand out a little more from it.
So the next step, now that everything has been sanded and vacuumed and wiped down, is stain. Initially, I was really hoping that I wouldn't need to stain anything. I kind of thought maybe that everything would be the same type of wood, and it totally isn't. This is maple. This top drawer is solid mahogany, and these three drawers are actually veneered walnut, and the veneered walnut also continues on to the top itself. You know, it's what you run into with things like this. Sometimes it just happens. I'm choosing gel stain in this situation because it doesn't really soak into the wood nearly as deeply as a regular kind of liquid stain. And the good thing about that is it helps with these color variations. Because it's topical, it just kind of sits. It's almost kind of, think of it like a thin paint in some respect. It isn't, but just work with me here. When you've got these different types of wood, using a gel stain is really beneficial because on these lighter, you can actually leave the coat on thicker, kind of like a paint. So you can apply it on and just kind of very lightly kind of start to rag it off to try to match these two colors together. I really was hoping that the whole thing was going to be the walnut. I don't know. So I'm going to have to kind of play around with it, and when I get it figured out, we'll start getting this thing stained. I'm going to have to sit and stare at this for a minute, figure out which one I want to do as a base coat. I do think it's going to be a two-coat process. I think I'm going to have to pick one of these as a base and then bring the other one in on top as a real light, because I do think that this is too red, but I think this is just too muddy. There needs to just be a little bit of a variation to it. Okay, I think I figured it out. The whole thing base coat in this brown mahogany, and then come back very lightly with this antique walnut to bring that red down and make it not quite so extreme. I'm doing it. So this coat is ready to go, and it did turn out quite a bit more red than, of course, I would want the finished product to be, but I was expecting that. So I think this is going to give us a good base to apply the second coat of the antique walnut color, and I think the fact that it's so much browner than this, just a real light coat, I think is going to tone down this red, and hopefully will give us exactly the color we're looking for. So let's do it. So I let the gel stain cure for a couple of days before moving on to the top coat. Now, something I completely forgot to mention at the very beginning of this video is that my intent for this refinish was to do it in a way that any kind of average do-it-yourselfer could manage, whether it was the tools or whether it was the finishing products. So that is the only reason why I'm using a rattle can lacquer instead of my professional HVLP sprayer. Now this is the only portion of the lacquer spraying that I filmed because lacquer is the cologne of choice for Satan. And yeah, once it's dry, lacquer does look very nice. It's nice that it dries very quickly, but it's just toxic stuff. I try to stay away from it as much as possible. But again, this is something that is readily available in all of the big box stores and in all of the local hardware stores. Just be very careful when you use it. So all in all, I applied 3 coats of lacquer to the entire piece. And now that it's dry, it's time to install the hardware. So this project went really well. It was very straightforward. I didn't run into any kind of hurdles or speed bumps. It just went smoothly. It took me a while, but that wasn't its fault. But I'm really excited to have this piece restored and to be able to enjoy it in my home. So I am a professional custom furniture maker and antique restorer. And this is the nicest piece I have in my whole house. If you happen to know more about antiques than I do, which is a very likely scenario, and you happen to know anything about this piece or this style of dresser, leave it in the comments below for me. I'm really happy with the way that it turned out. Thank you so much for watching. I'll see you on the next one.